Hey everybody, Steve Colescott here for the Iron Subculture podcast, covering all aspects of powerlifting, bodybuilding, and strongman training and nutrition.
Come on, Steve!
I love the feeling of being strong, I love being powerful, I love being big, but I just love being in the gym.
I envision the weights laughing at me, and it kind of makes me angry. We work out very hard, we work out as heavy as we can, and we train with intensity.
I still have a lot of fire inside.
Killing instinct inside you, that will to win.
Hi everybody, Steve Colescott, the Guerrilla Journalist here. For those of you that have never heard of me, which is probably quite a few, I've been a long time, over 2 decades, journalist, editor, video interviewer, and podcaster in the gym meathead world. I'm not sure how often I'm going to knock these out as I'm doing a lot of freelance contribution, so I recommend that you subscribe to this as I have the next 2 editions already in the works. In this episode, we have IFBB Pro Peter Ciccone talking about the value of periodization training for bodybuilding. I talked to female powerlifting and physique champion Kathy Johnson about winning in both sports. And then Josh Bryant, trainer of top experts in both of those sports, answers my question about if genetics limit us in powerlifting. The main segment is me interviewing top contest prep coach and new IFBB Pro Jason Theobald about how he designs a program. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, my name is Pete Ciccone, IFBB Pro from San Diego, California.
First question, you come across as one of the more intelligent, well thought out bodybuilders in the game. Why do you think there's so many dummies in the sport?
Well, geez, it being, trying not to be disrespectful to anybody, I think...
I'm actually just messing with that question.
Oh, okay.
Just warming you up a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. First real
sure.
question.
All right.
Periodization is common among powerlifters and Olympic lifters. Do you think it's beneficial for bodybuilders? If so, should it be pre-planned and followed or adjusted based on day-to-day feedback?
I think periodization is something, yes, it's important for bodybuilders. There's a place for it in bodybuilding. I think not so much periodization based on intensity level. I think with bodybuilding, high intensity is the norm and should be the day-to-day. So you don't have, for example, deloading phases and uploading phases the way that powerlifters do, strength athletes, because you're always either anabolic or catabolic. So you always want to be in an anabolic state. However, varying rep schemes, varying time under tension techniques, incorporating some eccentric phase movements, and even varying the type of training that you're doing, whether you're doing machine training and focus training and detail work, or you're doing more powerful, more mass multi-joint movements like the squat or the bench press. Those things can be incorporated at different times of your schedule, really primarily based on your recovery capabilities. In other words, if I'm in a pre-contest phase, my recovery capabilities are fairly taxed by the diet, by the cardio, and by the fat loss processes, or the tools that we use to get super lean. So when I'm in a state where I have limited recovery capacity, you want to look at doing things that are going to keep you from being injured or help support recovery, rather than overtaxing the body with big powerful strength movements. And then when you're getting a lot of food back in and your recovery is a lot more fed, when your body is being fed well, then you periodize in based on your competition schedule and based on your programming. I'm in a mass building phase versus a cutting phase. Not that you can't do both at the same time, but when you're focusing on them, for example, the last 6 to 8 weeks before a contest, and you start to get into a depleted state, energy-wise, you want to be smart about your training. And when you're fully fed and recovered and ready to go, like I can't wait to start squatting again. I haven't squatted in about 16 weeks because I've been on a couple of show preps. But I'm ready to get my big mass building movements back on there and put some extra size in different areas. But I think from a periodization standpoint, yes, you definitely will have periodization based on what your short and long term and intermediate term goals are, rather than in powerlifting, if you're focusing on a show, you'll have deloading phases and such. But definitely that will be based on energy and recovery capabilities.
Hey everybody, I'm talking to a longtime friend, Kathy Johnson. And Kathy is one of the most unique female athletes that I've encountered. How long have we known one another, Kathy? Like 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, I'd say 5 years at least.
Okay. I met you and your husband Marshall. You showed up prior to him becoming a member of the Elite FTS team.
Yep. No picture. Yep.
Hey, Freya. And you were competing. You could pull her up on screen.
Come sit on my lap. There we go.
Tell me a little bit about how you got into athleticism in general. I know you did your background involves gymnastics and cheerleading.
Yep. I was a cheerleader for about 7 years, all throughout high school, and then 3 years in college. I played, t-ball starting way back when. I've always loved baseball, and then softball all through high school, and a little bit into college. I've always enjoyed weightlifting. My dad had a weight set in our basement, and I've always enjoyed lifting heavy. And then when I got into high school, I realized that I was actually, strong, and I enjoyed being stronger than the guys. So I just kind of stuck with it, and then my third year in college, I met Marshall. We had the same major and minor, and he was like, you have to do powerlifting, you have to powerlift. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but sure, if it involves lifting, I'll give it a shot. So it kind of just stuck. And then after I had Freya, I jumped right back into powerlifting. Did that for about a year, and then thought it was time for a break, and decided to try some bodybuilding and see where that took me. So that's kind of where I am now.
I saw a clip when I was looking through your Facebook accounts, an older cheerleading clip where you're doing the overhead press of one of the cheerleaders. So
Yes.
you were probably naturally strong?
Yes, I've always just been naturally strong. My mom, she said when I was little, she said you'd pick me up and I was just solid. So I've always kind of naturally carried more muscle and just naturally been strong. It came easy. I've always basically been able to bench a plate, even in 10th grade.
So tell us a little bit about what you've accomplished in powerlifting. What are your numbers? What have you done?
My best equipped numbers is a 515 squat, 400 bench, and 435, 440. Right around a body weight of about 165, 170 is about where I would stay. Rhea, I'll be outside in a little bit, baby. My best raw numbers in a meet: 320 squat, 214 bench, and 408 deadlift. About the same body weight. I've always been around 165, 170.
Okay. And what made you decide to compete in an NPC show?
Honestly, I think I came back too fast after having Freya. I don't think I gave myself the proper time to get back to heavyweight. Being an athlete, I know what my potential is, so I want to compete at that. I don't want to take the time to do the little things to get me back there. I just wanted to be back there. So I think that kind of hurt me in the long run. So about a year after just training like that, my body was beat down, broken down, and one of our friends actually said, oh, hey, he's an NPC judge. He was like, it would be awesome to see you dieted down and on stage. And I was like, you know what? That was perfect timing. So he gave me a diet plan, and I followed that for about 6 months and lost about 20 pounds with that. And then switched to my second coach. His name was Kyle. And then started doing keto with him. And then that's when it really took off, and I could start to see the progress.
What would you say are the big difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting?
What is the big difference?
Yes.
Oh, they are completely different. One thing that I was actually happy about to switch from bodybuilding to powerlifting, powerlifting, all of my workouts revolved around a weight. And, you know, if you didn't hit this weight for this many reps, it almost felt like you had a horrible workout. Where bodybuilding you just go, you put your headphones in, you go and do your work, and, you know, you work up a great sweat, and as long as you leave there feeling, you know, depleted and, you know, walking out of there sore, then it was a good workout. So, bodybuilding is definitely more about that, where powerlifting is more about that number. You know, we're always chasing that number in powerlifting, where bodybuilding is go and get your workout in. And I loved that switch. I thought it was definitely needed. I definitely needed that break from always trying to chase that number, and almost feeling like disappointed in yourself if you didn't hit that number. So, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And then bodybuilding is definitely more of a 24-hour commitment. You know, it's not just going to the gym for 2 hours. I mean, it's your diet, and it's your making sure that everything is in order. You know, you have to eat every 3 hours. You have to do this. You have to do that. You know, it's definitely a much bigger commitment, and it is definitely a much more selfish sport. I mean, you know, Freya would be trying to play with me, and it was, I'm sorry, I have to do this. I have to eat. I have to, you know, where powerlifting is more just go work your butt off for 2 hours and 3 hours and do it again in a couple days. So both, honestly, I enjoy both, but they're completely different.
Okay. You know, I know many people that have competed in bodybuilding shows, and it's pretty common that they will hit a period where their mentality kind of goes off path and they start to doubt things. Did that happen to you anytime? Did you get off your diet? Did you screw up? Did you have any questions?
It was definitely nice having a coach for accountability, because it wasn't just me doing this. You know, it almost like I wasn't doing it just for myself. You know, he had expectations of me as well. So no, I never cheated on my diet unless he gave me a cheat meal. It was, you know, the entire time I was actually in prep, which was 18 weeks, I think I had. Yeah, 18 weeks till my first show, and then a total of 20 weeks to my second show. And whatever he put down is what I did. You know, people would always, I'd be like, oh yeah, I have to eat 8 almonds this meal. And they're like, 8, how come not 10 or 15? And I was like, I don't know, it's just what's on, you know, it's just what he told me to do. So I definitely had trust in my coach, for one, and 2, he definitely kept me accountable, where if I would have cheated, I would have been very afraid of what my consequences would have been. So, but no, I did not cheat.
Okay.
And it was from the beginning, I had that mentality of I'm in this 100%, it's all or nothing. So it was like that from the beginning.
And you did 2 contests, is that correct?
Yep, they were 2 weeks apart.
And tell people what the shows were and how you placed.
The first one was called the Upper Midwest here in Fargo. I took first, but that's kind of deceiving because there was only 2 of us in all of physique. So physique isn't a huge class normally. And then the second one I did was the Gopher in Minnesota, in the cities. And that one I took second out of 4. So there was 4 of us total. I thought second is what I should have taken. I don't think I was like robbed of first or anything like that. I think I deserved second. the woman who won looked phenomenal. She looked great. So, but they were fun. I definitely enjoyed being on stage. Definitely enjoyed it. I felt like I had a natural stage presence, which is what I wanted. I wanted to feel like I belonged up there and not just look like some powerlifter who was trying to fake it.
And I saw that you added some gymnastics into your routine.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do physique, is because we got a 60-second routine, and I didn't want my routine to just be another, do a pose here, walk a couple steps, do another pose. I wanted it to be fun and entertaining. So from the point I started making it up, that was my thought, and that's what I stuck with. And Kyle was very, very excited when I first showed him my routine, and he gave me the go-ahead on it, and he was so, so excited about it. So it was nice having him support it and everything. I know some people have been like, well, that's not a traditional, physique routine, but I didn't really care. I loved my routine. And I got a great crowd response, and I had so many people come up to me after the shows and tell me how much they appreciated the extra work put into it. So it definitely made it worth it.
Good. So what is your goals for the future? Do you plan to do more shows? Do you plan to do both bodybuilding and powerlifting and mix them together? Or
Short-term goals, heal my body. Funny thing, I thought switching from powerlifting to bodybuilding, I was going to give my body a break, but it's still a lot of stress on the body, and my body still feels beat up. I think part of it is getting to such a low body fat that there's just no cushion really anymore. So it's just rebuilding that. I would like to compete in powerlifting again, but it will be a while. I want to come back right this time and not rush it. I don't want to be in pain every workout. I don't want to. I just want a healthy body before I start putting a heavy load on it again. I think that will help with the longevity in the sport. As for bodybuilding, I loved everything about it other than the fatigue. No one could have prepared me for the fatigue and feeling like my limbs weigh 500 pounds apiece. And is that an orange? Sorry. Feeling like my limbs weigh 500 pounds apiece. I mean, I literally did everything in my power to not have to get up at work because I was so exhausted. And I would come home after the gym and literally just lay on the floor, and Freya would come and bring a book by me. So that I did not like that at all. That's actually the only downfall that I had in bodybuilding. I mean, I loved everything else other than I loved the workouts. I loved my food. It was just that. And like I said, no one could prepare me for that. There was, other than feeling it, no one, telling someone, oh, you're going to be tired, and then actually feeling it is completely different. So.
Okay. Last question for you. What I've noticed from seeing you compete is that you go from being like super relaxed and just having fun, and then you click your mind into gear. What do you think is unique about how you are mentally as an athlete?
I don't know. I come from a family of athletes. We're kind of a competitive family. So from a young age, I'm the youngest of 5, and my 2 older brothers are 6 and 8 years older than me. And I was always trying to compete with them, always trying to be, almost at their level. I've always hated losing. But with the relaxed to in the zone. I've actually found that if I try to be in the zone all the time, I compete worse. So I compete better when I'm happy-go-lucky, joking around in the back, and then it's, it'll be that song as I'm wrapping up my knees before a squat that just, gets me in the zone. And it's just, we'll always say go to that place, and it's, that place where you have to go to get the results that you want. So even in bodybuilding, getting those last few reps, on each set, it was going to that place. It was just focusing on that music and just hammering them out. So I guess I found over time that I compete better, happy-go-lucky, and then boom, turn it on.
Oh, and one last thing I'll ask you: can you tell people a little bit about Relentless and the Hope Kids charity?
Yes, Relentless has been going on for 5 years now, I want to say. It is a charity meet where we raise funds for a foundation called Hope Kids that is based out of Minnesota. Hope Kids itself is kind of like Make-A-Wish, except they deal with the whole family, and it is until the child is 18. So if they are diagnosed with cancer at 6 months old, the child, even after they're cured, can be in the organization until they're 18. And it also deals with their whole family, not just the kid who is ill. And what Hope Kids provides, they provide events to put on the calendar, other than doctor visits, other than chemo, other than blood draws. It's, baseball games that are free to the family. The whole family can go. They'll close down movie theaters, and, all these Hope Kids families can come in free, the whole family. So it's just something different, something to look forward to other than those doctor visits. And then it's also, they start to get to know each other. The families, it's, they're going through the same things as we are. So it's a little bit of, they build relationships. And then Relentless comes in there, and all of our money raised goes straight to Hope Kids and providing these activities. So we've raised almost $1 million in the 5 years. 5 years, yeah. And Relentless has actually allowed 2 other chapters to be opened up in different states. So it's always nice using what you love to do for something much, much bigger than you, and, that benefits other people. And it's an amazing event. It's something that you just kind of have to experience. But the feeling in the room, the day of Relentless is a feeling like no other. Being up on that stage and, seeing all those kids out there cheering for you, and then going and, running around with them, playing with them, seeing the smiles on their face. It's an amazing experience. And then knowing that we benefit them above and beyond, just that day. It's a great foundation.
Excellent. Certainly is. Well, very good talking to you.
Yes, nice talking to you, Steve.
Hello, my name is Frank Lagarde. I am the 2015 NPC Natural Northern USA Men's Open and Masters Bodybuilding Champion. I've been working with Beverly since 2014. Had much success with them in different shows that I've done over the past 12 years at this point. So I've used all their products, from the protein powder to the mass aminos, Ultra 40 to Lean Out. So I've had nothing but success with them, so I continue to work with them and hopefully work with them in the future.
Being comfortable is directly correlated to being normal, and normal is directly correlated to being complacent. If you're complacent, then you aren't growing. In life, if you aren't growing, then you're dying. So the next time you hit the gym, embrace the pain, conquer it, and get ready to grow. For t-shirts, hoodies, or tank tops, for men or women, go to www.l1standing.com.
With over 30,000 pages of free information on muscle building, fat loss, increasing strength, nutrition, supplements, and more, Muscle and Strength can answer all of your questions. In addition to information, Muscle and Strength is one of the industry's largest and fastest growing online fitness stores with the lowest prices and fastest shipping on over 10,000 supplements, fitness gear, and clothing. Go to muscleandstrength.com. The tools you need to build the body you want.
Do you think a guy without good genetics can succeed in powerlifting?
They do it all the time, yeah. Absolutely.
And how?
Well, I don't, by training intelligently, by like what you're saying, eating right and stuff. I mean, if you're, you know, if you think you're a prisoner of genetics, you can't be out all night drinking, eating like crap, training like a moron, and expect to make gains. But there's so many factors you can control. I think Fred had identified something like 38 factors that affect strength or something, and only a couple of them were determined, purely by genetics. So most of those factors you have control over. So you're a master of your own destiny to a point. So I think if you have arms that hang down to your knees and a small chest, you're going to set the world record in the bench press? Probably not. Will you be able to outlift most people with intelligent work? Yeah.
Have a hell of a deadlift, too.
And have a hell of a deadlift, too.
So we're here with lawyer, prep coach, and IFBB pro Jason Theobald. Jason, you have a great reputation as a contest prep coach, but you back that up by doing well on stage. Tell listeners how you got into lifting.
Okay. I got into lifting. I went to college and played soccer at the Division III level. I was an undersized kid in high school, and when I got to college, I was still the same. I made varsity. There were only 3 of us that did, but the coaches just looked at me and said, "You're probably not going to see the field much. We need you to put on some size going against these 22-year-olds." So once that winter hit, I was 18, almost 19. I finally got my butt into the weight room, and my dad had actually been a bodybuilder. He always went about 210 when he was really in the throngs of it, and I just never wanted to do it. He always tried to make me and get me into it, and I just wouldn't do it. But when I finally did, I put on some good muscle fairly quickly, and people were talking, and it was nice to see that, and I was seeing it, and so then I was hooked from then on out.
And what made you decide to go on stage and compete?
Well, I never even thought I had bodybuilding genetics. I always tell the story that when I started to get into it and eat cleaner, and a couple times we'd go out for pizza with the family, and I would just get like a chicken salad, and my dad looked at me and he goes, "Why are you doing all that? You're not ever going to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to be that strict on your food." And so I thought, well, I think I can, and so I was like, I'm going to try to do this. Don't tell me I can't. And when I got about 5 years into training, there was a couple guys at the gym I worked out at. I was out of college now, and they competed, and they said, "Yeah, do you compete?" And I was like, "No, I've never even been to a show." And they're like, "Well, you should go check one out. We think you'd make a good bantamweight." And I'm like, "Really? They have a class for me?" Like, I just always thought you had to be 250 or else there was no, I didn't know anything about the industry. And so I went and checked it out, and with them saying do it, I hopped on stage, and the rest is history. That was 2002 Tricky Jackson in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay, give us a rundown of your contest prep all the way up to the start of last year.
What exactly do you mean by a rundown? Like,
what contests have you done? How have you placed? How did you climb?
Okay. Yeah. So let's see. some of the bigger wins were 2008. I won the bantamweights at the Northern Kentucky, which was always a big regional show. And if you could win an open class there, they always told you to go then try one of the junior shows. And I was reluctant. I was always a tall bantam, and even though I beat a lot shorter guys on my symmetry and stuff, I just knew that at that level, at 5'6", it wasn't going to be. So I skipped it that year, but people wanted me to. In 2009, I came back. Let's see. I won the Indianapolis that year. And then I went on to do junior nationals that year. And I took 6th out of 17 in the lightweight class. And just missing that top 5. And I thought, well, hey, man, I can actually hang and do this. I didn't know how it was going to go. In 2010, I came back and I won a little show in Indiana, the GNC Classic. Did juniors again and got 4th. And then I took a little time off. I came back and did a Tricky Jackson as a welterweight. I think in 2011, I won my welterweight class. And then I didn't do any national shows that year. Took more time off, bumped up to middleweight, won the Kentucky Derby in 2013 as a middleweight. Was going to do Junior USAs that year and found out my wife was pregnant. So I took more time off, and I tried to do a show immediately dieting when my son was born. Worst mistake I've ever made in my life. My wife wasn't really supportive, which I don't blame her. And I wish I could take that one back. It's the worst I looked on stage in years. I just couldn't sleep, obviously. I'm the one I kind of need support, and it wasn't good. I got 6, but I just was not happy with my look. After that, I kind of thought I might be done. Here's another, now we have 2 kids, and I thought I might be done. I backed off training hard. I was just doing 4 days a week, and I told everyone I was just trying to not get dad bod, and but I was staying lean, holding 180, and here comes Classic Physique, and everyone's telling me that they think I'm perfect for the division. I need to come and give it a try. I got to do it. So I finally talked the wife into it, and it was 7 weeks out from junior nationals when she was finally like, okay. I stayed pretty lean, but I didn't know if I could pull it off. But I got ready. I was doing tons of cardio, eating low carb, not refeeding, breaking a lot of rules, training 7 days a week, but it was working for me. And I hadn't trained hard in a while, so my body was actually growing as I was leaning out. I went from 170 up to 182 and right back down to 170. So I weighed on stage what I had been weighing in the off season leading up, and I won the Indianapolis. It was the first Classic Physique they had there, and I won that overall. Hit junior nationals, and out of 21 guys, I got 3rd, which I missed the card by 1 point. That was pretty tough, but I was proud of what I was able to accomplish in 7 weeks. And I kind of thought I was done because I told the wife it'd be one and done. She really didn't want me to keep going. And we got to sitting around after that night with all the friends in Chicago, and they're like, "You've got to keep going. You'll win. You got to go do Masters." And I'm like, "I don't know. Talk to the boss." And they sat and begged her a little bit, and she agreed. So I put 4 more weeks in and showed up at Masters Nationals and won my class and the overall there out of 75 so guys. And there was some pretty good guys that showed up that have been bodybuilding for years. And the fact that I came away with the first place in the overall, I was pretty elated, and it was surreal as can be to me. And I was pretty honored to win.
How confident were you in prejudging that you were going to win?
Pretty confident in prejudging because I got top 5 call out, and I was kept in the middle, and this time I was never moved. But the guy that I knew I was compared to was a little shorter, a little more compact, and kind of a guy that I've probably lost to in the past, where they went a little more with his maybe thickness, but overlooked my symmetry and structure. But because this was classic, and everyone who was in the audience was telling me it was a done deal, I felt pretty good about it. But I knew the top 2 got cards, but I really wanted to do it as the one. I didn't want to do it as the back door. So I felt pretty confident I had one or two, but I was really holding out for one, but I was not by any means counting my chickens, because the guy they were comparing me to was a very good bodybuilder. He had been doing it for years, won countless overalls in Colorado. So I was confident, but not overconfident.
And what does having a pro card mean to you?
Really, it's just kind of an icing on the cake for all the years of the effort. I'm not delusional and think that I'm going to run to the pro ranks and start winning big cash purses and things like that. And I am not one of those guys whose body can really take the dieting year after year after year. So you're not going to see me a ton using this card like some of these guys who just diet show after show after show. I'm maybe going to do one in 2018, and we'll see how the family is and how everything's going business-wise and all that. But really, it was more of kind of just the added icing, like I said, on the cake of the effort, the 20 years effort put into this endeavor. And I feel like I did it looking the best I've ever looked. And for me, even if I never competed again, that would be good enough for me. But I do hope to see the stage again in 2018.
Okay, what was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome to get where you are now as a competitor?
I would honestly just say genetics. I mean, when I started out, I was 19 and I weighed 124 pounds. So my body was not a physique that really wanted to pack slabs of muscle onto it. So it's taken just years and years of beating it and trying to figure out new ways to shock it to add the size that I would need. I mean, I've competed as a bantam, a lightweight, a welterweight, and a middleweight, and I've done it successfully. I haven't lost a state, local, or regional show since 2007 that I had done, and I kept consistently bumping up weight classes. So I would just say, really, my body was never meant to really be a bodybuilder. I wasn't one of those kids who had abs just walking around. Even though I played tons of soccer, you think I would have been ripped, but I wasn't. I didn't have that nice mesomorphic full chest and just looked like that kid should go bodybuild. I just didn't have that look. So I'd say it was just kind of beating my own cards that were dealt was really the biggest obstacle. I love training, so it was never to say, just showing up or getting there, or I didn't have any huge injuries, so there's nothing like that I've had to overcome. It's really just the time and effort that I had to put in and the knowledge I've had to learn to beat my genetics.
Jason, your reputation is that you respond quickly to questions from your clients, and you go beyond them with direction and explain the reasons for the adjustments. What would you say is the most common error that lifters make in their nutrition?
In their nutrition, a lot of times, I'd say the most common error is when someone comes to me, it seems like men are overeating and women are undereating. It almost always seems to be the case. So you'll get guys that I just feel like their body fat's too high for what they want to do. They'll come and they'll say, I want to get bigger. Well, you can tell they've been pounding food and their insulin sensitivity's terrible and they're taking naps. And so those guys, I have to always then cut first. So they're like, I came to you to get bigger and here you go pulling weight off me. But, I got to explain to them that with their insulin sensitivity low, they're going to put on more fat as we try to push those calories. And then women on the flip side, women love to feel light and dainty and they don't mind if they're hungry and all these things. And the problem is obviously they're not going to progress with their training, but they're also hurting their metabolic, their metabolism, the fire, the metabolic fire, whatever you want to call it, is just it's low. And so then what I got to do with them is a lot of times they want to get leaner. What they're doing isn't working. And so with them, you've got to turn around and actually say, look, leaner is going to come later. We've got to get you eating close to 18, 2,000, calories here, 1,800, 2,000 calories or more, and then we'll start doing it because, they're on 1,400 and they weigh, say, 150. Well, they're already 10 times below their body weight, and I can't in good faith just start taking them under 1,000 and feel good about it. It's just going to cause problems in health. So those are the things that most people really are doing when they come to me. So it's like they got to go the opposite directions.
And the people that come to you, are most of them following a diet either made by themselves or from a previous coach, or are they just coming to you with nothing?
You know what? Early on in my career, a lot of times I was getting a lot of new beginners, and so they were coming to me really not eating that well at all. But now I get a lot of people who are either just on the verge of becoming a national competitor, and so they want me to come in to help them, or they're already there but they're not, they're kind of struggling. So they normally are following something. A lot of times they can't really tell me how many calories or what their macros are, but they can at least write it down, and it's fairly steady, so I can at least get an idea of where they're at. So most of the time these days someone is following something. They still, a lot of times, if they're men, they're overdoing it and women are underdoing it, but at least I have an idea where they're at.
Okay, if someone starts out with you that has no experience, what is the basic template you'd have them start out with?
Do you mean as far as nutrition, or kind of cover it all?
Cover it all.
Okay. So, and are they are you saying they're completely green, or they have like a year under their belt? Because it kind of matters when I get to training.
Let's say they've been training, but they don't have a specific diet figured out.
Okay. In that case, if they've never really dieted before, generally I'm going to try to keep the meals pretty simple, and I'm going to try to keep them fairly balanced. So what I mean by that is I'll try to give them a protein, carb, and fat in their meals. Usually maybe not the last meal of the night. I'm still a coach who likes to have no carbs. I think your body will burn more fat to fuel its bodily processes, and growth hormone output's a little higher. There are coaches who will debate, say you should have carbs at bed. I'm still old school, but most I would give them a balanced plan and a balanced meals at each meal. As far as training goes, if they've been training a bit, a lot of times, I might try to show someone how to mix in maybe hypertrophy days with power days. I might show them how to do push-pull, just some different things, because a lot of times if they've only been at it for a little while and they're still what you would call a beginner, a lot of times people are either doing like full body 3 times a week, or they're doing just a chest try and a back by. So I'll take their training a lot of times to the next level, because now the nutrition is there to support what they're doing. So the training usually gets a little more intense. The nutrition obviously is going to I try to get it balanced so that they're getting every macronutrient they need. The last thing I really want to do is start someone off and they have protein, veggie meals and things like that when they're a beginner. I feel like it's good to get them a base, get them eating the way they should, and then you can start carb timing at maybe meal 1 and pre and post. But generally, if someone has no background, I don't go right into that because usually if they have no background really in eating right, they're probably 20+% body fat. And just by eating nice meals that are balanced with the protein, carb, and fat, not only are they learning the basics, but they're gonna respond. You don't have to carb time them right away and put protein, veggie meals here and there and doing things like that. So, and then as far as cardio, that's going to depend on whether they're already lean enough and can grow, so I don't need it, or But I will teach people how to do your HIIT. The high intensity stuff. A lot of people don't understand the intensity that is needed on the interval, so I got to explain that. And then I explain the difference between when to do your lighter intensity type cardio. So I got to teach them that. There's still debate whether fasted is needed anymore. I still like fasted cardio. So if someone's trying to really cut and they're already where they can do, I'll explain to them why I feel that is more beneficial. So let's see. And then supplements. If they're a beginner, I'm just going to get them on the basics. And for me, I feel like it's nice to have a multivitamin, a digestive enzyme. It's really important that, especially if you're up in their calories, that they'll continue to have a good gut. A lot of your health starts within the gut. So a good digestive enzyme, a good multivitamin, a good whey isolate protein, and then two of the other ones that are kind of next level, but I will recommend it even to beginners, are branched chain aminos while they're training, and creatine. That would be your basic get results, truly see results from the supplements type thing. So I think I've covered kind of the gamut of kind of what I would do with someone who's really green.
The other question I have, when you're working with someone new, are you looking at like their somatotype, or is it more important their body composition? They could be an ectomorph that's just chubby. Which of those do you look at, if either?
I actually look at both. I also look at age. I think age, activity level, body type, and body fat levels are really what coaches should be looking at when they're setting this up. So if someone's a true ectomorph, but they've put on a little body fat, I still am probably going to start them with a little bit higher carb composition than if I was starting a meso or an endo who's put on a little body fat. So but the calories might just not be as high because we want to get the overall deficit, but I still might have the percentages to lean more towards 50% of the intake is carbohydrate because that's what their body type will take. But I wouldn't give them as many carbs as a lean ecto because they are starting in a fatter spot. And then, of course, activity levels. Are they sitting at their desk all day? All that's going to come into play. Maybe then I got to put in some cardio with them. But, yes, I look at body type, age, activity level, and the body fat composition.
Okay, you mentioned to me that your split between male and female is about 60-40, a little bit more with the female side.
Yes.
And a lot of my background is in the powerlifting world. And one of the things that quality trainers kind of realize when they're dealing with females is that they can train with greater volume. And I think a lot of that is because, a 600-pound squat or deadlift doesn't take as much out of you as a 900-pound squat or deadlift would. Do you find that female clients train with more volume and frequency? Is that something you have them do?
No, I don't find that. One difference I have found with women is that they tend to hold on to the muscle that they have acquired. And I think that's just because them being lower testosterone, they're not going to really gain muscle as fast as a man and at a rapid rate. And so what they seem to gain seems to really have a solid base to it. But as far as, seeing if women can train with more volume, I honestly think the amount of volume and the amount of times you can train per week really come down to, if we're speaking just keeping it simple across the board and we're not talking about PEDs, it really comes down to each person's own genetic makeup. I really have not found that it's really like in the powerlifting world where it has to do with women, and maybe because their squats just don't get as high, so the CNS isn't quite as impacted. I feel like across the board, at least in practice for me, it really comes down to the individual. And I'm going to take the feedback and find out, is this fifth day that they're training really just not impactful? And if it's not, then we should use it as a rest day so that their other 4 days they're able to hit their PRs. So those are the kind of things I try to figure out as far as people's recovery. And you can improve that with the nutrition. With their eating right, it's amazing what the body will do. When I have some of these women come to me who are under-eating, and then I slowly get their calories up to 2,000. I mean, they're hitting PRs. They're squatting 225 for the first time, and they're really growing, and their leg presses are getting up there. And but I think it's individual. I really do.
Okay, and how does the cardio work differ in the two genders, both off-season and pre-contest?
The only way it really differs is that I find that it's a little tougher for women to stay closer to their stage weight. And I don't want someone to try to stay 10 pounds within stage weight unless they're just genetically gifted. But I don't like women to get 30 pounds. We're starting to get to the point where the diet's just going to be a very long, tedious And it can also hurt their metabolism too. So the way it differs is I generally have women doing a little more cardio off season by way of HIIT. They're small. They might only be 5 intervals, maybe 3 times a week. But so I just get that extra metabolic burn for the next 24 hours. As far as the types, I use light intensity, steady state, and HIIT. That doesn't differ between the genders. It's just women generally have a little bit more cardio to do in the off season to keep them within that striking distance of the stage. But I also bear in mind that, I like to see a woman's period come back. So body fat levels do have to rise. I feel like you really want the body to return to homeostasis, and that gets the best responses for the next prep. I feel like women who don't get their periods back and keep their weight too low, it really starts to get harder to even get into shape, even if they only have to drop 12 to 15 pounds. So a lot of my girls actually add back about 20, and I like to see the periods return and things like that. But yeah, I mean, as far as the cardio, it's the same types. It's just women, unfortunately, generally have to do more when they're a competitor, and they, just so they're not overworking for the diet.
Okay, you mentioned that different lifters respond to different carb intake levels. How wide are the differences with the people that you train?
It's so wide. I mean, it's so wide even across genders. Like I just posted one on my Instagram. She's 55. She looks 35. She's eating in her off season 320 grams of carbs. That's more than I'm eating right now. And her abs, I mean, when you look at the picture, I mean, she's probably pinching a 4 millimeter if anyone's familiar with calipers. And this is her off season. And she's 55. I mean, that goes against generally what I've learned over the years just from doing this, that the older someone gets, the better they generally do with fats and keeping the carbs low. But that's just not her body. So that's a high one. And then I have a young power lifter. He gets up around 720 carbs. He only weighs 176. He's got a full 6-pack. It's very hard for him to gain weight. And he can put the food down. Like, he's not miserable. So that's 750 carbs about for a guy who's 176 pounds. And then you've got a woman who's about 125 eating 320, and she's 55. Then on the flip side, I've got women right now who are, on ketogenic diets to get ready, even pros. And, so they're getting no carbs. And we're talking for 7 weeks into the show, roughly. So it just completely runs the gamut. And, if any coach is keeping someone just on a carb, diet or just on no carbs, they're really doing a huge disservice to their clients. And, I've been asked to even try to condense my brain into prep books and things that tell you at 4 weeks do this, and at 2 weeks do this, and at 10 weeks you should be doing this. And I've just pretty much said I would love to do that, but I don't see it being possible. Everyone's so different that I truly would just be throwing some shit out there that really most people wouldn't respond to anyways. So it's a huge span. So
how do you start out that judgment, figuring out the macronutrient levels for someone that's new? Do you have a balance that you start them with, and what do you look for?
This goes back to our first or second question where you asked me about body type. So I'm going to look at their body fat. I'm going to look at their age and things of that nature. So the one gal who was 55 and got up to 320 carbs, I could just look at her and tell that she was an individual who was probably under eating a bit. She was fairly lean, just lacked a lot of muscle. So I started her already pretty high and broke my rules about age. And I just started her at a 40-40-20 because she looked fairly ecto to mesomorphic. And I found that that's a fairly nice range, 40% protein, 40% carb, 20% fat. And started her there. And generally, if I think someone's an ecto meso and I want them to grow, I'll go in my head and say, why don't we start around 15 to 16 times their body weight? That's usually a pretty good range for them to start maybe tipping the scale. But it took way more for her. So every week, she'd check in. I'd check her body fat. Looks good. She's not adding. And then I'd say, well, how's your strength going? If it's going up, I would leave the diet go because she's progressing in the gym, and I'm not looking for scale bumps every week. That would be crazy. You'd start putting on fat. If she's progressing in the gym, I leave it. How's her hunger? Is she starving? If she's starving, that's not going to be good in a growth phase. As long as her body fat's staying, then I would go ahead and push a little more food as well. So I never have set ranges, but I think probably because I've been doing this so long that I've seen so many body types that a lot of times it's pretty easy for me to say, all right, they weigh this is their body type, their body fat's probably here, and I kind of have a good feeling for protein, carbs, and fats. But like I've told my clients before, they're not really paying me for the first set of macros. It's all the manipulations that your coach makes is what you're really paying them for. Anyone can get fairly in a ballpark, I think, if they've been doing this for 2-3 years, for what starting macros should be. And again, if you're wrong and you need a mulligan, it's the knowledge that you need to know to say, I undershot these carbs big time just based on what they're telling me, or they need more protein. So that's where the knowledge really comes in. I don't really have any like set formulas that I follow to start out the macros.
Okay. Last question on macros. Do you find with all the people that you and your coworkers work with that the macronutrient balances differ from a lightweight to a super heavyweight?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In general, your super heavyweight's gonna take in way more food. But like I've shown before, I have that 176-pound kid. He's eating more than any 280-pound. I have a few 280-pound guys right now that I have. They're topping out around 500, 600 carbs. And like I said, he got to 750, and they have over 100 pounds of body weight on him. But in general, yes, I mean, your bigger guys are going to need more calories than your lightweights for sure. But the rules are broken many times. So it really, again, comes down to the individual.
Okay. And as far as supplements, what would you say is the most wasteful supplement that you see people buying?
Let me think about that. I guess one of the ones that I used to recommend, and I don't anymore after I've read a good amount of the science, is glutamine. I just don't think that your body can digest it with all the research I've looked at. So, the benefits of getting cell volumization and things of that nature, I really don't think you're getting much from it. So I've stopped recommending it to my clients. I think the only reason would be to take it is if for some reason your digestive enzyme is bothering you. Glutamine can help aid in digestion. But as far as any of the cell volumization and recovery, there's much better products out there, like NO2 products that are out there, citrulline, all those things that will cell volumize actually work. And I recommend those first over glutamine. So.
Okay. Talking about masters level, and we're talking like not a young master like you, but like 50s and over. What kind of changes in both training and nutrition do you think most male masters need to do, and how about female masters?
Yeah. Well, again, this is going to be one of those things where I'm going to give generalities, but it's not going to be across the board because I've seen some freakish 50-year-olds who have metabolisms better than me. But generally speaking, you've got to pay closer attention to recovery. I also don't always have my masters pushing PRs. I mean, if they throw a knee or a shoulder joint, they're not going to be progressing at all. And joints at that, as you get older, are going to be more susceptible to that. So training's going to be a little different. There's going to be longer phases where we deload, where we just kind of pull back, and then I'm not always pushing for those PRs with the 50-year-old person. That's not to say we don't encourage some time when we do push for PRs, but you're just not going to be pushing like you would with maybe a 25-year-old, 30-year-old. As far as diet, I kind of touched on it before. As someone gets older, they generally seem to do better on fats and less carbohydrates to manage the body fat. But that's not always the case at that age, as I was speaking about the lady who's 55. But generally speaking, I will have a lower carb intake as they get older. I'll be more diligent to make sure to have them do it pre and post, maybe meal one, maybe not. But I think really the training is the biggest difference between someone who's 25 and 55. Joints really have to be taken care of, and more deloads, and really just listen to the body. If I have a 50-some-year-old client say, man, my shoulders aren't feeling great, I'm going to find out. If I'm not controlling training on them, I'm going to find out what they've been doing and then give other suggestions to try to take the ease off the joint for a while, which may even be just taking a week off. So really it's just being a little more careful, a little more diligent, and just kind of reading the signs just a little more carefully.
Okay, how often do your clients screw up their contest prep, like psychological screw up?
So you don't mean cheating or?
Cheating, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You know what? It happens, but it doesn't happen a ton. I guess either they don't tell me, or it doesn't happen as much because, I mean, they're paying me for my service, and I think anyone who's going to pay someone is pretty serious about making, being their best. And I think they understand that by cheating, it's just not. But it does happen. But it's really not as often as some other coaches tell me their clients do. But I think that's because as my knowledge has grown and as my reputation has grown, I'm working with people who are beyond the 1 or 2 show stage, and they understand physically how it's going to feel, mentally how it's going to feel, and they know that that's just going to set them back. And I think that when I've always worked with a coach, I've wanted to impress them as much as I could and follow their program as much as I could. And I think most of my people give me that same respect. So it doesn't happen a ton. But when it does, I mean, I tell them, hey, look, I always say, ask yourself what you think the winner of your class is going to do next time. Next time that piece of pizza or that chocolate looks good to you, ask what you think the winner would do in that situation. And if you think the winner is going to eat that pizza, well, that's your answer. But, 9 out of 10, that's probably not what the winner of that show is going to do. And most people say, oh, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And they keep that in mind. And I think it helps the people who get a little more cravings, So.
But sometimes those winners are genetic freaks that can get away with that stuff.
It is. There is some genetic freaks out there, but that was never me. And so to me, it was always, I wonder, what's the winner going to do here?
Yeah.
So,
what do serious lifters do too much? What is the mistake they do?
Well, I think honestly, it's just thinking that more is better. 7 days a week in the gym, it has to be better. It just has to be. But if you're not progressing in the gym, that 7th day you're just burning calories, but you're not really giving the muscle really reason to get better, to get bigger, to get denser. So I think it's tough for guys to balance their recovery with the thought that you have to be progressing in the gym. So, in the off season, I only train 4 days a week. I've always found that when I'm pushing on my big lifts to get new weight, my 5th training day really was never that great. I've got kids, I've got a wife, I've got 2 jobs. So maybe it's because of all the other stressors, but 4 days a week has always been perfect for me. And I think it's a recovery to progress balancing that the advanced guys screw up.
Okay. When we spoke the other day, you mentioned to me that you're launching a supplement company. Tell me a little bit about that, when we can expect it, what it's called, and how we can get those.
Sure. It's New Ethics Formulations, and the website will be nesethics.com. We have our whey isolate called IsoPerfect. Actually, we'll be picking some up today. And then our first product will be hopefully here in about 6 weeks. It's a glucose disposal agent called GDA Max. Excuse me. And then our third product, which I just my partner and I just agreed to order today and get it manufactured, is called EstraCort. And that's going to be an estrogen product with a cortisol formulation. So you get the double hit there, and I'm really excited for that for all of my clients. For women, it's going to help them lean out a ton, and for my men who are natural, it'll be great to push up their own testosterone. As you lower estrogen, testosterone goes up. There's an inverse relationship. And then it also will work well for men who are on TRT. And a lot of times the TRT doctors don't want to give you an anti-estrogen. They'll say, oh, we'll just lower your dose. But sometimes 200 mgs is right where a man needs to feel right, but he might be getting a little estrogenic size. Well, this product will work perfect too. So we're pretty excited about it. My website, or the website, I do have a partner. His name's Vince Pitstick. But the website will be we'll actually have the assays for each product on the website. You'll be able to enter your batch number and the product name, and it'll pull up the test that was ran for that product as it came off of the line. So we're trying to bring in really good quality here and not cut corners just to make a buck. So I really think my clients are going to be excited about it. Vince's clients will be excited about it, and I hope to get everyone else excited about it as well.
Okay, last question. What advice can you give lifters to live happier lives?
That's a good question. Sometimes I wrestle with that myself. I think the biggest thing, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I think the biggest thing is to realize that lifting, bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding, it should enhance your life. I think the guys who train 7 days a week and they won't go out past 9 p.m. and they won't go to a movie because they can't eat, I think they think they're happy. But I think at some point in their lives, they're going to realize how much shit they've missed out on. I've never taken it to the point where I'm going to skip a party. I'm not going to stay out if my friends want, where I'm not going to have wine with my wife. She asked me last night. I had wine. So it should enhance your life. And, if you have to be a hermit to just become a pro or even place, second call outs at a pro show, I mean, if that's truly what makes you happy, that's fine. But that would have never made me happy. So I think it should always start as this is supposed to enhance my life. The minute it's not enhancing your life, that's when you should pull back a little bit and realize it's just a hobby for 99% of us. So.
Hello, my name is Frank Lagarde. I am the 2015 NPC Natural Northern USA Men's Open and Masters Bodybuilding Champion. I've been working with Beverly since 2014. Had much success with them in different shows that I've done over the past 12 years at this point. So I've used all their products, from the protein powder to the mass aminos, Ultra 40 to Lean Out. So I've had nothing but success with them, so I continue to work with them and hope to work with them in the future.
Being comfortable is directly correlated to being normal, and normal is directly correlated to being complacent. If you're complacent, then you aren't growing. In life, if you aren't growing, then you're dying. So the next time you hit the gym, embrace the pain, conquer it, and get ready to grow. For t-shirts, hoodies, or tank tops, for men or women, go to www.l1standing.com.
With over 30,000 pages of free information on muscle building, fat loss, increasing strength, nutrition, supplements, and more, Muscle and Strength can answer all of your questions. In addition to information, Muscle and Strength is one of the industry's largest and fastest growing online fitness stores with the lowest prices and fastest shipping on over 10,000 supplements, fitness gear, and clothing. Go to muscleandstrength.com. The tools you need to build the body you want.
This is Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. Give it a go here.